Hello.
Morning, morning.
That's too early. Do mornings right
Sorry,
now.
sorry.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I just undoing my biscuits.
Of course you are.
When else am I going to eat my biscuits?
No,
It's the
no,
only time I sit down when we do the podcast.
I just made myself a coffee and I walked past a loaf of bread just randomly in the kitchen. And I thought, oh, I could well eat some toast. And then I thought, no, because we're about to record. And only one of us can be eating, and
What?
it's not going to be me.
And it's obviously me because it's my story.
Yes, yes. You'll be eating it. So then,
Nom, nom.
oh,
No, I tell you what, there's nothing I hate worse than listening to people eat. Whenever I used to phone Claire, she'd be eating. I'd be like, right, I'll call you back,
no.
yeah?
I'll call you back for fuck's sake.
God.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I
I know.
can't bear to listen to people eat. So I
Well, to be
will
honest, whenever anyone says about hating the sound of people eating, I think of you
Mm,
straight away. I think of you. And that was
actually,
because when I first met Claire, she said, yeah, Sarah, because I think I'd commented and said, yeah, I really like you, but I can't listen. I can't listen to you while you're eating. I'm really sorry. And she was like, "Oh my god, Sarah's
I've
exactly
had
the
that
same."
feedback before.
Yeah, where have I heard that before? Yeah, she was
I
like,
can't.
"Yeah,
I am the most placid character you will ever meet.
yeah, you are."
But if you chew loudly near me or anywhere in my earshot,
See a
there's
different
this
side.
rage that I get, and I just don't. I feel
Mm.
like what happens is all the rage that I should normally feel at everyday items just kind of gets contained in a little like purse in my belly.
Yeah,
And then as soon as someone chews, it goes zip,
it's like now's the time.
unleash hell.
Yeah, no, no, I get
Can't
it.
even
I get
bear.
it. Strangely, I'm like that while I'm eating. I don't like listening to people eat anyway. I don't get massive rage, but I do when I'm eating. If someone's eating like an absolute fucking pig,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, unless it's a pig, I can listen to pigs chomping away.
Oh,
That's fine. That's fine. If it's an animal, I'm like, oh. But if it's a human, I'm like, get fucked.
death to you. It was
Yeah.
really funny actually yesterday. We had our friend's little boy over
Hmm.
for the day, and we'd taken them to the cinema and we'd gotten them McDonald's and they were eating it in the car. And Zachary's 4 years old and they were eating in the back. And Isaac went, excuse me, Zachary, do you mind eating with your mouth closed? And then
Oh my
because
God,
I
you've passed it on to
I
him.
know, I always used to say it to Isaac, can you chew your mouth closed, please, mate? But then about 30 seconds later, because Zachary had no idea, he was just chewing
He
on his
was like, what?
nuggets. Isaac went, I've got a good idea, Zach. Let's do a challenge. Let's face each other and look at each other and chew with our mouths closed. And then whoever chews with their mouth open loses.
Do you want to be a loser, Zachary? Do you?
I was really laughing. I thought that's so funny. And actually, what an eloquent, polite way to go about it. When actually I'd be like, fucking shut up.
Yeah, close your fucking mouth. Oh no. Oh, bless him.
So
Oh
funny.
no.
Excuse
Oh,
me,
that's cute.
Zachary.
Excuse me, Zachary, but may I make a suggestion?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to eat with your fucking mouth closed? Or I'll throw you out the fucking window. How about that, Zachary? That's coming next.
So funny.
Yeah.
But
Goodness.
yeah, can't even bear it. Like if we was recording and you was sitting there eating something up, like, mate,
Mate,
back in
we've got to end the podcast altogether.
forever.
It's just not working for me. I know.
No.
I am aware of it. I'm also aware that our microphones cut out a lot of sound, which, thank
Mm.
God.
Thank goodness for that.
Yes. And many a morning has my microphone cut out. And it's like, no, you're just too goddamn loud. Stop it.
It
Your
does
voice
do
is
that,
going
doesn't it?
right through me,
Yeah,
literally.
does do
Yeah.
that. But this actually is our first blam of our new blam setup.
It is. So it's
Woohoo!
only our Blamley can hear
Yep.
this.
So
And they don't mind if we're chewing.
no,
Well,
only
maybe.
our Blamley are those paying for a subscription every month are allowed to listen to this episode. So how about that?
That's great, isn't it? It's really great because we want to give back more. We want you guys to get things that, your average Joe doesn't get.
Yeah. And
This is it.
we appreciate our Blamleys so much that we just knew that the blams that we were putting out weren't a thank you, were they? They weren't good enough standard to be like, oh, we really appreciate you. Here's some
No.
great episodes for you to listen to. We knew that they wasn't up to standard and we didn't want to put them out. So that's why we've changed things. And this episode, honestly,
Is it a good
this
start?
episode, it's a really, really good start to the Blam.
What kind of genre is it?
It's a murdery one.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
We haven't really had murdery ones, really, have we?
All the ones that we've been doing have been like murdery ones. We haven't had a good like ghosty one or a good.
Well, no, I mean I'm just looking at the last, well, 3, I suppose, because we had Anatoly Moskvin,
Yeah.
the last one. Then we had Unlikely Graves.
Oh, right.
And then before that, we had Holly Willoughby.
Mm-hmm.
And then before that was Robert Wone.
Ah, yes.
So that was
great episode.
That was murdery, I guess. But yeah, we've had a lot of, I don't know, just I suppose non-category episodes lately.
All the ones that we've done recently have been requests.
Yes, yeah, they have.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's not our fault.
Yeah, it's not us. It's not us, mate. We just do what the people say. Yep. But yeah, I would like to do a sort of haunty murdery. Well, yeah, obviously murder comes first, then the haunting. But actually, speaking of which, last night, so Jess is full-fledged teenager now. She's 16. We had a sweet 16 the other day.
Can't even believe it.
A couple of days ago, I know. And a few days before that was her prom, and she looked about 25, which was terrifying.
Yeah, it wasn't okay.
No. But so she's finished school now. So she's in like the interim period of she's finished school, she's done her GCSEs, but she hasn't yet started college or anything like that. So currently she's in bed. But she's been sleeping quite late and obviously going to bed quite late. So last night we all went to bed. Me and Claire were like exhausted, going to bed. Loopy was in bed because he had school this morning. Jess was up, wandering the house, and we've got a really strange house. Like our house, you could easily get lost in our house, and not because of the size, but just because it's just
the layout.
Yeah, it's just a strange layout. And so she was sort of wandering around in the house. I don't know, 11 o'clock last night or something. Me and Claire were in bed, pretty much asleep. All of us, I was vaguely aware that I could hear my phone like buzzing, and I thought, I don't know whether I was dreaming it or what, so I just kind of ignored it. And then we heard boom, 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 boom down the corridor to our bedroom. Bang, 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 bang on the bedroom door. Please. It was like, what? She went, can I come in? We were like, yeah, what's wrong? And she went, something really weird's going on downstairs.
Oh, no.
We were like, what? And I was like, sort of woke up. I said, Jess, come in. She came in. She said, I could hear voices all round the house saying something about 400 people have died. And I was like, what are you talking about? So we don't understand what happened, but she said it was coming out of all of the Alexas. I mean, it sounds like we've got about 200 Alexas. We haven't. I've got one in my office, which is downstairs here, one in the lounge, and one in the dining room. So it's kind of, we have them so that we can speak to the kids. Like when dinner's ready, we don't want to be going all traipsing all through the house, going upstairs, like, come on, dinner, blah, blah, blah. So we've got these Alexas all around the house so that we can play music and speak to the kids. She said they were coming out the Alexas all around the house. It kept saying things like 400 people died, something or other. She said, oh, and then one would go quiet and then another one would say it and that. And I was like, what? And I said, well, are you sure it was coming out the Alexas? Yep, absolutely sure. Checked on like the Alexa app. Absolutely no record of anything going on at, well, anywhere from like 8 o'clock in the evening was the last activity on the Alexas. No idea what it was, but she was so freaked out. And I was like,
gosh.
Someone trying to tell us something. I said, maybe it was like a news bulletin or something. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
she said, no, it was weird. That was all it said. And yeah, just weird things have been happening in our house lately.
You should have got your spirit box out, mate.
I know. Well, I would have done, but I was so tired. And my office phone, I was at work week before last or something. I've got a desk phone here.
That's the proper old school curly phone.
Yeah. And Claire phoned me on her mobile and said, the phone in your office has been like, it won't stop ringing. It just keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. And I said, did you answer it? Because predominantly I only have it for work. I said, did you answer it? And she went, yeah, but there was just no one there. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And then as I was on the phone, I could hear it ringing in the background. She went, see, it's ringing again. And I went, hang on a minute. Are you sure it's even connected? Because I'm pretty sure that I disconnected.
Oh, stop it.
Right. So she was like, oh, I don't know. And she looked and she said, well, the actual phone wire is unplugged. It's not plugged into anything.
Oh,
right. It gets worse. So I was like, what? I said, that doesn't make any sense. I said, maybe it's like, I don't know, maybe it's like an electrical surge or something like that. I said, unplug it from the wall. So, because it's got a power plug.
Mm-hmm.
I said, unplug it from the wall. She was like, okay, all right. So she unplugged it and I heard it stop ringing. And I was like, all right, there, sorted. And I said, anyway, I'm at work. So I'll be leaving in about an hour, blah, blah, blah. Fucking phone started ringing again.
Stop.
All of it was unplugged. Everything.
Oh my God.
I was like, what the hell is going on? And she was like, this is really freaking me out. She said, I've got both the wires in my hand and it's still ringing. And I was like, all right, burn it.
Burn the house to the ground.
I was like, get out, get the kids, get the animals, get out. And throw a lit cigarette over your back. Yeah. Yeah, it was really weird. We've never got to the bottom of it about what it was doing. But yeah, so I might have a haunted phone. So I think what I might do is, I mean, it hasn't done it since I've been home. And I sit at my desk all the time to do my work, to do the pod, edit the pod, everything. And it hasn't done it. Do you imagine if it rang now?
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it hasn't done it. But maybe if it does it again, maybe it's for me. Maybe that's why they wouldn't talk to Claire.
Maybe.
So maybe I'll just answer it and I'll be like, hello. I swear to God, I just heard a voice.
Stop.
I swear to God, I just heard a voice in the lounge. Where's my phone binging? That is so bizarre.
I'm not all right about this, Kate.
Anyhow, when are you next coming over?
Is my car's broke?
Oh no. Is it actually?
No.
Oh.
But it will be when you
it
invite me over.
It will be when I go, please come over.
Nope. Oh, really, that's so weird.
Strange goings ons.
Mm.
But yeah, it's
but that's cool though.
Yeah, I've to be honest, I've never felt scared of anything like that.
Well, I bet the ghosts have been like desperate for someone to plug in an old phone, because they always used to ring, like back in the 80s and 90s or whatever, didn't they? Ghosts always used to ring the phones and there'd be no one there. And now we don't have plug-in phones. So who are they?
Here it is.
That's a very old phone.
I'm
surprised it hasn't got a dial on it.
The reason that I got this one is because it's an old American style phone. Like, we didn't have phones like this in the UK. No. And I got it because I wanted a phone like out of the 80s films.
Stranger Things phone.
Yeah, just like it. I prefer to speak on a proper phone rather than this
Mobley.
Square Mobley. Yeah.
All right, well, that's fair enough.
Yeah. There you go. I should have done that as my blam.
You should have done that as your blam, but you didn't. So here we go then. Random blams. Go. What you got then? You go.
I have got 5 facts that I thought were good and interesting. Allodoxophobia is the fear of other people's opinions.
Yep, we've done that one.
We have done that one.
Yep.
And I think that I suffer with allodoxophobia because, to be honest, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
It takes roughly 540 peanuts to make a jar of peanut butter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well.
Lobsters have blue blood.
Yep. Knew that one.
A silverback gorilla can lift over 1,763 pounds in weight.
That's too much.
I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? I still don't think it'd be able to lift me, because I think I'm just a pinch over that.
I think it would tear you limb from limb. It would tear your face straight off.
It would rip my face right off, rip my lips clean off. The average golf ball has 336 dimples.
Oh, someone's counted that, for fuck's sake. And not just once,
they've
counted a few balls to get the average.
I thought that, yeah. I imagine someone sitting there with like 50 golf balls and going, right, you'd have to get a little marker pen, because I was thinking, how is that possible that someone could dot 'em? I was thinking you could just literally go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.
Cool.
Yeah, there you go. 336 dimples on a golf ball.
All right.
That's mine.
My plan is in relation to the new Jurassic World film that's been released.
I can't wait to see that.
Josie and I went to see it in 4D. And when I tell you we got thrown about, we got fucking thrown about in these chairs.
Oh, really?
And we got wet, because like there's a lot of thingy, like water scenes and stuff. And
I thought you meant you just really liked it.
I just really loved it. But there was a scene where there was like a Jeep driving through the jungle or something. So obviously it's quite bouncy. And we was like, you know, Jim Carrey when he's in Ace Ventura, he's driving, he's like, whoa! That literally is. My bum left the seat at some point. You literally had to hold on. When it first started happening, Josie was like, do we need seatbelts?
Am I going to get thrown across the cinema?
Honestly, it was so much fun.
Is it worth seeing it in 4DX or whatever?
I reckon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I reckon. Yeah, I mean, it's like £25 a ticket, but it was
worth
so good. Yeah. And we just kept laughing because you get thrown about so much. It was really funny. It was so fun, but also a bit scary. I think that's why it's like nervous laughter. Like,
should this be happening?
Oh my God. So yeah, but anyway, so it got me thinking about dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs, and I just feel like they didn't look like how we think they looked. Because if you, I saw a TikTok, obviously, and it's blown my mind. If you see a dog's skeleton head, you would never assume that a dog had jowls, because it doesn't show on the skeleton. So what's to say that a dinosaur's face didn't, have jowls and whatever else, and it would have looked very different. And I've just found a fact that said that scientists in China discovered early Cretaceous period Tyrannosaurus skeletons that were covered in feathers. It says, if the ancestors of the T-Rex had feathers, then the T-Rex probably did too. I know. And in my book that I'm reading currently, which is called Keeper of the Lost Cities, and it's fantastic. There's about 12 in the series, and I'm currently on book 9 or 8.5 at the moment, almost 9. And I keep talking to Josie about it. It's so funny. But in there, T-Rexes have feathers.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, I don't think dinosaurs look like what we think dinosaurs look like.
That's interesting.
Blam.
Yeah. I know, because I know when they do reconstructions of skeletons, they can test like any experts out there, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure they can like detect the like fat amount on the face or something. Like on the skeleton, they can test to see like how thick or chubby someone's face was. Because
really,
because all like skulls are pretty much the same, but they can tell in what places there was like thicker flesh and fat and things like that. Which is how they do the build up
reconstruction.
Yeah, reconstruction of the face. So that would be interesting to see if there's any, but surely there would be like fossilized like feather residue or something like that found with dinosaurs, would there not?
I've no idea, Kate. I've just read the thing.
Interesting. Can you imagine a big old T-Rex that kind of resembles a massive fucking chicken?
Yeah, that wouldn't be quite as intimidating, would it?
It wouldn't really, would it? Great big 100-foot chicken.
And it went.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What would the purpose of them having feathers be?
Well, I don't know. It's probably the same as the purpose of a chicken having feathers.
Yeah, but surely if they're a reptile, they wouldn't need it for like heat, would they? Oh,
I don't know. Don't even know, but there you go.
I need to look into this.
Yeah, please do.
Cool.
All right, so that is our blams done.
All right, random blams done.
We have got a quick shout out before we start the episode, and our shout out goes to Nancy. Nancy, thank you for joining our Blamily and getting access to this episode and all the other Blam episodes and all the Blam episodes going forward. We hope you love them. I did explain to Nancy as well, because Nancy hadn't caught up with our episodes. So I was like, just to let you know, we have changed the blams. But she was fine with it. So.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nancy. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Welcome. All right. Shout outs done.
All right. Shall we episode?
Yeah, let's episode, because this is a good one.
Okay.
Before we begin, this is a trigger warning for everybody. This episode contains depictions of murder, kidnap, rape, and the harm of animals.
No. Morning.
Morning.
Blamily.
Honestly. It's been a great morning this morning because I didn't, even though I'm yawning, I didn't have to get up at 3 o'clock this morning, so that's great.
Oh, didn't you? That's good.
No, the first day off in like 4 days.
Did you have school run?
No.
Nice.
No, Josie done school run. I finished the episode, and here I am.
Here we are. Lolly.
Yep. So let's get crack-a-lacking. So on November the 10th, 2010, in Apple Village, Ohio, police receive a worrying call from the manager of the local Dairy Queen, Valerie Haythorne, and she was asking them to do a welfare check on one of her employees, which was 32-year-old mother of two, Tina Herman. So she had been scheduled to work that afternoon and hadn't turned up. So the manager, Valerie, telephoned Tina, to ask her where she was. Phone rang, but she received no answer. And this was incredibly uncharacteristic of her, because she was one of the managers there as well. And Valerie just felt like something was seriously wrong. And she was a very sort of trustworthy employee. She never would have just not turned up. So Valerie took a drive by her house. She saw Tina's truck in the drive. She saw that the lights were on in the house. So she knocked on the door. She received no answer. She actually wrote a little note and then popped it through the letterbox. And a few hours later, she still hadn't heard anything from Tina. So that's when she decided to contact the police. So she informed the police that Tina was currently in the process of splitting with her boyfriend and was due to be moving her and her kids out. So police immediately become quite concerned for her welfare, and they sent an officer out as well. And when the deputy arrived at Tina's home, he knocked on the door. He got no answer. He kind of just looked about the outside of the property. There was nothing amiss, no sort of worrying signs or anything like that. And without a search warrant, he wasn't allowed to go into the house. So he reported his findings back to the station, and that was that. He even done on his way home from work that evening, he even sort of was driving past and thought, oh, I'll just have another little look. And he looked and there was nothing amiss. So he just carried on. And then the following morning, police received a call from a concerned boyfriend to report his girlfriend missing, 41-year-old Stephanie Sprang. Stephanie Sprang was Tina's best friend, and she was due to be helping Tina move I think actually she was due to go to Tina's the evening before, the evening when Tina didn't turn up for work, because they were going to go and look for apartments together. And Stephanie's boyfriend said he hadn't seen or heard from her since that day on the 9th of November, which around sort of like 12:45 p.m. or something, middle of the day. He told police that she had last been with Tina. So also around this time, authorities decided to call the school, the two children's school. So that is 11-year-old Cody and 13-year-old Sarah Maynard. So the police called their school to kind of just check in, almost to do a welfare check on them as well. And they find out that they hadn't turned up for school that morning, which is the morning of the 11th. So they had last been seen getting off the bus outside their home after school the day before. So while police are trying to collate this information and draw some sort of conclusion, they receive another call, again from Tina's manager, Valerie, from the Dairy Queen. However, she wasn't calling from the Dairy Queen this time. She was actually calling from inside Tina's home.
Huh?
And she spoke 3 words that no one wanted to hear. There's blood everywhere.
Oh, no.
So worried had she been about Tina that she decided she wasn't bound by the same laws as the police. So she went into Tina's home. She found that the truck that had been there was no longer there. So she decided to, I say break in, she didn't. She found a little bit of an open window at the back of the house, and she managed to make her way in. She kind of lifted it and clambered through. And the sight that greeted her made it clear that something was terribly wrong. Starting from the front door and leading throughout the house was the most amount of blood that she had ever seen. Something violent and horrific had happened in that house, and she was too terrified to explore further in, so she came straight back out the house and called the police. The police arrived with a search warrant. They broke into Tina's home. Inside, they found 3 distinct areas where there was a large amount of blood that had pooled. one by the front door, one in the living room, and one in the bedroom. Blood spatter coated the walls of the living room. There were bloody drag marks going from the pools of blood that they kind of then led around the house and into the bathroom. They found no sign of any persons in the house. If police thought the scene throughout the house was bad, when they entered the bathroom, it led to police to believe that potentially every missing person had been killed. Blood covered the entire bathroom.
Jesus.
The entire bathroom. The bath was stained with blood. The shower curtain hanging into the bath was stained blood red at the bottom, indicating that at one point the blood in the bath would have been at least 2 inches deep.
Oh.
Now, I've seen photos of this crime scene, and if you're currently picturing a bathroom completely covered in blood, it isn't enough. There was blood everywhere, and not just like droplets or smears, like covering all of the surfaces. And the source that I read about the shower curtain in the bath said that it was about 2 inches deep. I saw the shower curtain, Kate.
Oh, really?
It was not 2 inches. It was probably about 4 to 5 inches, completely stained blood red at the bottom, not just like a smear of blood. It was like, you know, when the shower curtain hangs into the bath and it gets wet, like if you're having a bath, and it would be wet from the bottom up to where
the whole bottom of it.
It literally was covered.
Oh.
Investigators also found body tissue in the bath, on the toilet, just everywhere.
Oh, body tissue.
There was no evidence that there had been like a gunshot or anything like that. There was no casings or anything. So police believe that it was either blunt force trauma or a stabbing that had created this amount of blood in the house all throughout the different rooms. Oh. And police actually believed that the blood in the bathroom suggested that it had played host to the dismemberment of at least one body.
Oh.
So now the hunt for clues on what on earth went on in that house began. Police found 2 sets of footprints that had tracked blood throughout the house. They managed to determine that one of the pairs belonged to Sarah, which was Tina's 13-year-old daughter. Oh. And although they didn't have the physical shoe, they found the shoe box still in Sarah's closet, and then they managed to match up the size of the shoe to the bloody footprints, and also like they did the manufacturers. They obviously looked up the tread on the shoe and matched it to the shoe print. So this meant that at some point Sarah had been in the house after blood had been spilled on the floor and splattered across the house.
Because she'd walked through the blood.
She'd walked through the blood. She had been upright and walking. The indentations in the carpet meant that it was, you know, it was an actual person walking. It wasn't just a shoe that had done it. There was weight in that shoe. So this meant that she had been at some point alive walking through this house. But they had absolutely no indication of where she might be now. They also found that in the kitchen were unemptied shopping bags, making it appear that Tina had gotten home, had popped the shopping down, and then had been interrupted before she could finish unpacking everything. In the bag of shopping, police came across the receipt, and it told them that she had purchased her shopping at 12 p.m. on the 10th, which was the day that she went missing. So now police had a narrowed down kind of little window of time of which something had happened, because she had been due at work at 4 p.m. that evening and hadn't shown up, and the children were dropped off from school between 3 and 4 p.m. So while forensics combed the house for more clues, detectives tracked down and interviewed their first main suspect, Tina's ex, Gregory Borden. And he admitted that they had a rocky on-again, off-again relationship, and currently they were off. But he had said he'd been at work Wednesday evening, and he was working over an hour and a half away. And then when he finished around 4 p.m, he decided to stay with friends and play golf. He said at some point Tina's mum had phoned him to say that Tina hadn't shown up for work and was missing, but he just decided that she had taken the day off work. So he continued his golf and he didn't pay it any more attention. And it all sounds very convenient, doesn't it? This alibi that it had. And it was convenient because actually there were many people that confirmed his alibi and it was rock solid. So he was off the hook.
Good job he decided to play golf that night then.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't just go, nah, I'm going to go home. I've got things to do.
He'd have been in for a shock.
Yeah.
So that same day, police locate Tina's truck, which, if you remember, had been at the house when Valerie went by the first time. And then when she went by the second time, it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So police located it not too far away in a parking lot, completely abandoned, with no signs of Tina, Stephanie, Sarah, or Cody. So police knew they needed to find something within that house to be able to figure out what happened and locate all 4 missing people. And a discovery came later that day. In the garage, police found a Walmart shopping bag, which kind of seemed completely out of place. It just kind of been left laying on the floor, like the middle of the garage. So that's, it kind of caught their eye and they was like, that's a bit suspicious. So they had a little look inside, and inside the shopping bag was a box of heavy duty garbage bags and 2 obviously unused, freshly bought tarps.
Okay. Very suspicious now.
Not a very promising piece of evidence.
No.
However, it was just what the police needed because also inside that bag was the receipt.
Yes.
So the receipt obviously didn't show who had bought these items, but what it did show was the time and date.
Yes, mate.
And it was purchased on the day of the 10th of November. Did I say it was November? Yeah.
Yeah, November, yeah.
The 10th of November, just after midnight.
Okay. So that's clearly dodgy then, isn't it?
The day everyone seemed to disappear.
Mm.
Now, police did everything that you would hope they would have done in this case. They tracked down the Walmart store that the items were purchased in and they requested the CCTV footage.
Perfect.
They had the exact time of which the items were purchased, so they didn't have to look through hours and hours and hours of CCTV. And so they didn't have to try, really, to find the person that had bought these items. So, clear as day, they saw a man between 25 and they put in between 25 and early 40s. Brown hair, wearing a hunter's camo print t-shirt, like the green and brown ones that had like trees and leaves and stuff on it. That sort of camo print.
Surprised I could see him.
Yep. He tried to blend in. He appeared relaxed. He didn't appear to be in a hurry. He appeared to know where everything he wanted was located in the store. They watched him as he traversed the store and picked up the items. He went to the tills and he purchased the heavy-duty garbage bags, the tarps, a turkey sandwich, and a $1 Halloween shirt, and left the store. So to be doubly sure that the guy in the CCTV purchasing these items was the same items that had been found in the garage and not just a coincidence that someone had bought the same items. So they requested the receipt from Walmart. Then they compared both receipts. They had the same item numbers, the same transaction numbers. So they were, it was a perfect match. This was the man that had bought those items. The man paid in cash, so police weren't able to track him down via his card details. So what they did was they looked at the CCTV outside the store, at the front of the store, and they watched the man exit, and they saw him get into a silver Toyota Yaris.
Smart.
Mm-hmm. And although they were unable to get a clear view of the number plate, they had the man's face clear as day on the CCTV footage. So what they did was they searched the database for owners of a silver Yaris, and then they pulled up their driving license photos. And unbelievably, they found the man that they were looking for. And to top it all off, he was wearing the exact same camo print t-shirt in his driving license
Oh,
photo
that's brilliant.
that he was wearing in the Walmart CCTV footage.
Goodness, he couldn't be more helpful.
And this man was 30-year-old Matthew Hoffman.
I don't like him.
No. Well,
No.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about Matthew Hoffman, and then we'll carry on. We'll pick the story back up where we've just left it. So
right.
Matthew Hoffman was born on the 1st of November, 1980. And from what I've read about his childhood, it was perfectly normal. But it was very clear to me that as a young child, he constantly needed something, some sort of adventure or some sort of danger, some sort of sense of excitement. He was never happy staying in one place too long. He would get very restless. Even as like an adult, he would kind of move from job to job, and he just had like wandering feet. He was always needed to do something. He was a clever boy, but described as not having an ounce of common sense.
I know
people that
like
knew him as a boy said he was strange. He would do odd things, but to me, they weren't really odd things at all. They were just spontaneous things. Like he would be out walking with some friends, and then he would see a table and he would jump up on the table and he'd backflip off. He would see a tree and he'd just run off and go and climb the tree. Like he was very spontaneous, very
in the moment.
I want to say Prob's a little bit ADHD.
Yeah.
He was like constantly like finding things to do, and he just wasn't happy just being settled. So he was constantly climbing trees with his friends. He fashioned a tightrope between two trees in the local woods, and he would, teach himself to do the tightrope. He and some of his friends built a tree house. And if you hadn't noticed already, it is clear to most people that knew Matthew that he had a love of trees and the outdoors.
Dressed like one. So
yep. He got into trouble once at school for climbing onto the roof of the school, just because he often did things, and they'd be like, "Why have you done that?" And he just was like, "I don't know. I don't know what. It's just, did." So by all means, he was just an average kid with a short attention span and restless legs. As he got older, neighbours said that his behaviour became more strange. He would sit for hours in a tree and stare at them through their windows. He would hunt squirrels in the trees, kill them, eat them. He would set small fires on his lawn. After leaving school, he managed to get a job with a plumbing contractor as some sort of plumber's assistant. He was making decent money. He moved out of his mum's home in Knox County and travelled to Steamboat Springs in Colorado, where his life took a bit of a wrong turn. In early 2000s, while working on a 16, I say flat, they were like, it was like a holiday condo complex.
Okay.
That had like 16 homes in this complex. And he was doing some plumbing work on some of the homes in there. Matthew was staying at a hotel while he was doing this work, and he got the urge to do something spontaneous, something exciting. So he went down to the local park. He dug up the "Welcome to Steamboat Spring" signs, a super big, heavy wooden signs that they had there, and he took 3 of them back to the hotel with him. Dug them up. I don't know whether he done it one by one. I should think so, because they were massive, these big wooden signs. He would have had to really dig them out as well. They would have been like dug straight into the ground. And I couldn't really find out much information about that, or exactly how the police managed to locate these signs.
You probably saw them.
People probably witnessed these signs being carried down the road.
Yeah.
So they did indeed track these giant signs down to the hotel Matthew had been staying at. However, when they got there, the hotel room was empty. Ooh. Aside from these, there was 2 of the giant ass signs in the hotel room, and the other one was outside the hotel. So police figured out that only one person had been staying in that room at the time that these signs had been taken. and they tracked down Matthew Hoffman, who by that time had absconded. I say absconded, but he'd gone back to Knox County to stay with his mum. So he was extradited back to Colorado where the offence had taken place. And when interviewed, he confessed to taking the signs. And when asked why, he couldn't really give an answer. He was like, I just wanted a souvenir. But he left them there, so...
A key ring, Matthew. A key ring, a postcard. That's fine.
I did find out, actually, that there are key rings that have that sign on them.
Oh, well, there you go, Matthew.
Welcome to... Yeah.
Oh,
so no, he was spontaneous. He just wanted to do something reckless. Probably a bit of an adrenaline junkie as well.
Yeah, I mean, we used to take things like
cones.
Yeah, traffic cones, road signs.
Yeah,
things like that. So, yeah.
But what was interesting though was that while he was in police custody about this offence of taking these signs, an officer recognised his face. And the reason that he recognised his face was because this officer was currently investigating an arson attack on a condo complex and was looking through employees that had been working on this condo at the time.
Oh.
So, of course, he had come across Matthew's face because he had indeed been working on this condo at the time that it had burnt down. So they do some more digging. And now that he was arrested for something else, they also had his fingerprints on file. So they find his fingerprints all over the apartment where the fire started, all over the owner of that apartment's car, which the police had found abandoned a bit away. And inside this owner's car was like some of his own items from his house or from the condo. And Matthew's fingerprints were all over the interior of the car.
Brilliant.
So when police confronted him with all this information, he was kind of like, you got me. Damn. Yeah. And then he explained what happened. So while Matthew had been working on this condo, the owner of this flat in the condo just happened to mention that he was going to be away for quite some time. So Matthew decided to basically live there while this man was away. He used the TV, the jacuzzi, he slept there, ate there, stole some of his things. He moved the man's things into the man's car. Like, it was just weird, bizarre things that he'd done. Impulsive things. And he was just like, when they was like, why on earth did you move all of that stuff into the car? And he was like, I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know. I just don't know. Can't even tell me why. I just did it. So then when it was time for him to leave before the owner come back, he started getting worried and almost obsessed with the fact that he knew his fingerprints were going to be all over that apartment. And when the owner came back, he was going to be like, somebody's taken some of my shit and put it in my car. So he was worried that the fingerprints would lead back to him. So he decided what he would do was burn down this home. And he gave no thought to the fact that there were 16 other condos in this complex. He didn't have a thought about whether the fire would spread. He just wanted to burn down this apartment to cover the fact that his fingerprints was in there. However, it did spread and it burned down all 16 of these apartments.
Shit.
Everybody did get out. Nobody was actually harmed, which was incredibly lucky. He caused $2 million worth of damage.
Bloody hell.
And he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. I think it was 8 years. He ended up serving 6.
That's quite a lot, isn't it? I suppose. Yeah, I suppose if you've set 16 people's homes on fire, that'll do it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Is that going to go into things like attempted murder and that?
No, I don't think he was charged with anything like that. It was just the arson that he was probably reckless endangerment, something like that.
Blimey, yeah.
So when he gets out of prison, he manages to get himself a job as a tree surgeon, or like a tree trimmer of sorts. He manages to save up some money, he's getting quite a decent wage, and he buys himself a nice little house. He gets himself a girlfriend who has a little boy. They move in together. They have 2 dogs together.
Not his little boy.
No, her little boy.
Okay.
Yeah, she has a little boy of her own, and then
Right.
they become like this little happy family.
Lolly.
And he lives his life as best as he can for a few years. His neighbours all say he's a very nice guy. They never had any issues with him until about mid 2010. People around him start noticing a shift in his attitude. His behaviour starts to change, and he's withdrawn. He's acting quite odd, and he goes back to sitting up in trees for hours and just staring out into the neighbours. Some of the neighbours complained that he was like a peeping Tom. He starts trying to become like a survivalist and just living out in the woods by himself. He's trapping, killing, and eating squirrels. His 2 dogs go missing. He says that they've run away, and he starts being violent with his girlfriend. When she decided to leave him because of all of this odd behavior that he was doing, and she didn't want it to impact her son. So,
good.
She decided to leave him, and then when she went back there to collect some of his stuff, he became violent and started choking her. So she filed domestic abuse claims against him, but didn't actually like go ahead and like further the claim or anything. She just filed the complaint and then didn't
she didn't like follow up on it. And
no. At this point as well, so he's now lost his girlfriend. He then loses his job because his boss finds out that he lied about his qualifications to get the job, and also didn't disclose his criminal history. So things just kind of go from bad to worse for Matthew. I think that after his prison sentence, he tried his absolute hardest to conform to social norms, and he just couldn't keep up the facade.
Yeah.
And that's when his behaviour started to be affected. So now he didn't have his girlfriend. He didn't have a job or a source of income. So he goes back on the thief.
And
in
didn't
November,
have his dogs.
Didn't have his dogs. In November 2010, he starts hiding in the woods near Tina Hoffman's home, looking for the perfect house to rob. He wanted a house that was quite secluded, wasn't surrounded by neighbours like what we are when we've got neighbours each side. She did have neighbours, but they were quite a way away. And he wanted somewhere that had easy access to get in and out. So he spots Tina's home and notices that her garage doesn't fully close. A nice easy way for him. He decides to spend a few nights camped out and watching the comings and goings of the family. So now we go back. It's now November the 14th. Police have identified Matthew Hoffman as the man in the CCTV buying the tarp and the garbage bags that they found in Tina's garage. They can see that he has prior convictions for arson, a complaint of domestic abuse that had been filed 2 weeks prior to this.
Right.
They also found, when they was checking the system, that he had been stopped by police on the night of November 10th. So that was the evening that the police were at Tina's home after Valerie had found all the blood in the home.
Right. And they had spoken to him that night.
Yes, and I'll tell you for why.
Oh, mate, this is okay.
While an officer was out looking for Tina's car, which they found in a parking lot abandoned, he saw a silver Toyota Yaris trying to enter that same car park. So the policeman stopped him to tell him that the car park was closed, but they also did question him about why he was there.
Right.
So he tells them that his name is Matthew Hoffman. He says that he is waiting to pick his girlfriend up. So they ask him, why are you picking her up here? Where does she live? Yeah. And he says he can't be sure, really. This is just where he normally picks her up from to take her to work. And they say, okay, well, what's your girlfriend's name? And he tells police, the officers, that his girlfriend's name is Sarah.
No, please don't let this be true.
He isn't sure of her last name because they'd only just started dating. So they send him on his way, completely unaware that while he was questioning Matthew Hoffman, the rest of the team were currently in Walmart trying to identify Matthew Hoffman.
Oh, no.
So they do eventually put 2 and 2 together because he told the officers that his girlfriend's name was Sarah. Sarah was currently missing. So time was of the essence, and police believe that if the family weren't dead, they would be very injured based on the amount of blood everywhere. So they needed to find them as soon as possible. So they obtain a no-knock search and warrant for his home.
What does that
and
mean?
Just no knock, so they don't have to knock and say, excuse me, we've got a warrant for you.
Well, they literally burst in.
Absolutely.
Oh, I love that.
That's what they did as well with the Holly Willoughby, Gavin Plum. They don't knock because it would give them time to hide things or anything. So a no-knock warrant is fucking bash that door straight in, get in there as soon as possible.
Oh, I love that.
So
yeah, I'm going to do a no-knock alarm call for the kids tomorrow morning. Yeah.
So just after daybreak on November the 15th, the SWAT team literally burst into Matthew's home. They knock his door straight down. They throw in a flashbang grenade.
Yeah.
Because like I said, they didn't want to give him any time to do anything or harm anyone if he's got people in the house.
Yeah, it's like sensory overload, isn't it? Straight away, where they're like, whoa, what's happening?
It was so early in the morning that the odds are that he would have been sleeping. So that's why they went just after daybreak, to have that element of surprise, to be able to maintain the crime scene, maintain the if there's any evidence in the home and things like that.
Police wouldn't be able to do that with you. They'd kick the door down, be like, yeah, we're nice and early. No,
they might have been up 3 hours.
And they'd like burst in and everyone would be like, Sarah's at work.
What are you talking about?
She's not here.
Yeah. So they found Matthew asleep on the sofa in the front room, and he kind of yells, like, disorientated, what's going on?
Yeah.
But that would be the only thing that he said in amongst the chaos. He was arrested and his rights were read. He was quickly handcuffed and removed from the house. And after the madness had kind of settled down and police had time to take in what their eyes had failed to notice at first.
What?
They found leaves.
Leaves?
Piles and piles of leaves scattered throughout the house.
Huh?
So they had no idea what to do. These piles of leaves was like 3 feet deep. So they came in looking for missing people and then come across something they probably never imagined. When they're picturing this scene of how it's going to go, they never would have imagined finding these leaves on the floor. So, like, why are there leaves covering the floor? What's the purpose of these leaves being there?
Yeah.
So, fearing that the leaves were being used to hide evidence or even hide bodies, police began to use a stick to kind of like poke underneath the leaves as they made their way through the house. And these leaves covered the entire floor of different rooms throughout the house. And like I say, they were like calf to knee deep in certain areas.
Oh, that's creepy. That is.
In the bathroom, they found carrier bags just completely filled with leaves lining each of the walls, like stacked on top of each other until they were floor to ceiling high. And they were stacked like sandbags.
Yeah.
There were 110 bags of leaves in that bathroom.
What? In the bathroom?
Just in the bathroom alone. The bags covered the mirror. They surrounded the toilet.
That's so weird.
There were like bags hanging from the ceiling, like in other rooms. There was like bags of leaves. There was just loose leaves in places, just leaves everywhere.
Just leaf it out.
Leaf it out, will you?
Were they his babies? Was he like, you're all my babies?
Looking after each one.
That's so random.
They also found in the home an inactive weed growing setup in one of the rooms. They found 2.
I get that.
He likes leaves.
Yeah.
They found 2 dead squirrels in the freezer, and they also found a cabinet randomly placed in front of a door. So police move aside this cabinet. They open the door, and they descend the stairs into the basement.
Oh.
And in the basement, directly to the, I think it was the left-hand side, there was a breeze block wall that had been fashioned.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a large hole that had been kind of left out of this breeze block wall. And inside that area, police could clearly make out the silhouette of a figure.
Oh, God.
So clambering through this dark hole, they find more bags of leaves lining the walls. The floor again was covered in loose leaves. On top of these leaves were some blankets and a sleeping bag. And on top of the sleeping bag was 13-year-old Sarah Maynard. Hands and feet bound by an immense amount of yellow rope and duct tape. On closer inspection, officers could see that she appeared unharmed, but she was wearing black gloves that had been duct taped on. She was fully clothed, still in her jeans and her t-shirt, but wearing a clear plastic garbage bag over the top of her jeans, like a nappy. So there was 2 leg holes cut out. She was wearing it almost like a nappy. Her first words to the policeman rescuing her were that she needed to get to school. She had already missed too many days and was going to be late. So police could see that she was in shock.
Yeah.
And she just kept asking about her little dog, Tanner, and asking if he was safe.
Well, was he safe?
Before they could untie her and take her from the house, police had to take a photo of her for evidence.
Yeah.
So as she sat on the leaves with her hands and feet bound, wearing this plastic see-through garbage bag as a nappy, they had to be like, sorry, I've just got to snap a quick pic.
Sorry, could you just smile?
Oh, and it's awful that they have to do that, but they have to do it for evidence. But then she was taken straight to the hospital to be examined and then was later released into her father's care.
All right.
So Matthew was, of course, taken into custody for questioning. He was placed into protective custody during the first 24 hours because of his demeanour. He was crying. He was threatening to harm himself. And police certainly didn't want that. They needed to find the other 3 missing people.
Yeah, sort yourself out, Matthew.
So by the time police took him in for actual interview, Matthew's demeanour was very different. He was completely unresponsive, like catatonic unresponsive. And I've seen the tapes of this interview, and I have my own point of view as to what he was doing. I believe that he had the narrative in his head of how he wanted things to go, and his demeanour was kind of playing into that. And you'll understand what I mean as I go further on.
Okay.
So, but detectives do what they can to try and get through to him, to try and get a reaction out of him. They asked him normal everyday questions, just to be personable instead of about the crime, just trying to get him to react. One of the guys says, "Hey Matthew, you look kind of familiar to me. Do you go to the gym downtown?" But he doesn't respond. They call his name and he doesn't respond. And then this carries on for hours, okay? And then till one detective is trying to pull at his heartstrings a little bit. He's kind of pleading with him, please just tell us where they are. There are families out there that need closure, people need to find out where their loved ones are. You need to just tell us where they are and get this over with. And Matt finally responds. With his hands cuffed in front of him, he signals to his heart. And then he uses his hands to sign that his heart is broken. And that is all.
What?
So he points at his heart in his chest, and then he just goes like this.
Broken.
Yep. And they're kind of guess. One guy goes like, I don't know what I don't read sign language. I don't know what you're doing. Yeah. And then they're trying to go, your heart is broken. Because he doesn't say anything. And give them their due. Detectives use all of their interrogation techniques to try and get a reaction from him. They are kind and understanding. They then are confrontational. They then are just talking to each other as though he's not there. They're talking, I think Matthew knew what he was doing, and I don't think he's, catatonic. I think they're talking in front of him about him, just trying to get a reaction. And after 4 long hours of Matthew sitting in complete silence, he finally cracks. In a whisper, like down into his chest with his head down, and he's speaking into his lap almost. He just whispers and he says, "I can't tell you anything because I don't know." He says, "I know I must have done something wrong. because I found her in my house and she was tied up. He tells police that after finding her tied up in his house, he decided to take care of her. He says that he tried to appease her fears and worries. He says that he fed her McDonald's, he let her watch a movie, he gave her one of his own books to read. And he continues to say that he didn't know why she was there or who she was. However, police knew differently because when they searched his house, they found a camera. And on his camera were tons of images of Sarah, some while she was tied up in the basement of his home. But a lot were not. A lot were taken, outside of her home.
Right.
But even faced with that evidence, throughout the whole interview, he plays the narrative that he doesn't know what he did. He must have done something. He thinks he must be crazy because he doesn't remember doing anything. He hints that perhaps it was he was psychotic and had a psychotic episode. He even kind of brings up the crime of the arson in the condo, and he says, I knew I had done something bad, and when I finally pieced it together, I handed myself in. So he's making it appear as though he was not aware of doing these things that he's done.
Did he hand himself in for the fires then? No. Okay.
He was already in custody because of stealing signs.
Well, so, yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember you saying he handed himself in.
He did not.
Matthew.
He's very upset throughout the interview. He's constantly got a tissue and he's constantly dabbing his eyes, and he's very childlike throughout the interview, very victim almost. He's
I ain't got time for that.
He's wrapped up in this big coat someone's that he's borrowed from like one of the police guards or something like that, and he's got this big coat around his shoulders, and he's very hunched over, very small, and it genuinely could be a coping mechanism because we do things like that to protect ourselves from these sorts of horrors, and you would normally see that from a victim, not so much the perpetrator. I personally don't think it's a coping mechanism, but we'll go into that later. I think it's all an act. But throughout these interviews, he does appear incredibly distressed, and he's got days and days of interviews because they're trying to get some information from him and he's not giving it, so they're continuing this interview. So on day 3, he is especially distressed because he's had female interviewers as well, because they're trying to say because of his demeanor perhaps he needs a female to have that softer approach. And on day 3 he has this massive burly policeman come in to the interview room, and he's loud, he's aggressive, he's assertive, and trying to elicit this response from him. And Matthew is literally like a child. He puts his head between his legs. He covers his ears with his hands. He's got his whole arm and hands like over his ears. And he's like rocking backwards and forwards, and this man's like shouting at him. But all detectives want to know is, where are the other 3 missing people?
Yeah.
They even say to him, we're not asking you to tell us what happened in that bathroom, because that we know that would be too traumatic for you. So just tell us where you left them. Because it genuinely is possible that he doesn't remember and that his brain has blocked out that trauma. So then they even go so far as to drive him about the area to see if anything will trigger his memory.
That must be so frustrating for the police.
Oh, no.
They must be like, just tell us.
Of course you remember. Of course you do. Just tell us where it is.
You must remember something. It'd be so frustrating. I'd beat someone.
Yeah, no, you mustn't.
Well, I'm not a police officer, so that's lucky.
Good reason. But they honestly, give them their due, they try everything.
Apart from beating him. That could work.
They take Matthew, they drive around for a few hours in the area just to see if it will jog his memory. And it's a few hours welcome break from the interviews that he's been having. They're obviously quite intense and things.
They go on for hours as well, don't they?
Yep, absolutely. And he is very, very emotionally distressed, or whether he genuinely is, or whether he's just doing that. I mean, I don't know, but it's obviously going to take its toll on him. So this few hours out was quite a welcome break for him. Not that I feel sorry for him at all.
No.
But nothing jogs his memory, because he's fully aware of where they are and just choosing not to tell them. Day 4 of interviews, and the detectives try a different stance again. This time he's being interviewed by a male and a female interviewer, and they're almost like mother and fathering him, because his emotional intelligence is very, very he's like childlike.
Yeah.
And it is very much speaking to a child, you know, when the child's on something wrong and they're like like hyperventilating, and you're like, oh, don't worry, it's okay, I know it's going to be difficult, we just need to know what you've done, you know, you need to tell us, but you're not going to get into trouble. Obviously they didn't say that, but you know, when you're speaking to a child and you're trying to be like,
let's just get this sorted out, and then you don't have to come in here anymore. And
exactly. And they're trying to sort of comfort him, and it does have an effect. Because at one point Matthew asks the detective to take him to the bathroom, and in the bathroom he discloses something to the officer. He tells the officer that he had a dream last night, an awful, disgusting dream that gave him a knot in his stomach. And the dream was something about him working at a food processing plant, and there had been garbage bags there. And he had looked inside these garbage bags and seen body parts. And because of that dream, he said that it triggered his memory, and everything that had happened had come back to him. And he said that he couldn't live with what he had done. So he'd come up with a plan and discussed with the detective the idea of having them stage an escape so that he could pretend to escape and have the police shoot him. And he said, what he would do is that I will write down my confession. I will hand it to my attorney. Once I'm dead, once you've shot and killed me, then the attorney will hand over these details. I'm not going to confess otherwise, because I can't live with what I've done. I want you to kill me. Obviously, police can do that. No. So they do not agree to those terms. So they carry on the interviews, and they carry on, because then at one point he goes, oh, I made that up, actually. I didn't have a dream. I don't remember what happened. So he's going backwards and forwards, and, you know, they carry on interviewing, and after a couple of hours, Matthew comes up with something else, and he kind of changes his mind about wanting to die, and he says, actually, I think what I'll do is, if I confess, will you take the death penalty away? Because I don't want to die.
I'd be like,
so police actually went to Tina's family, and they say to him, this is what he is suggesting. We obviously know he's done this crime, but we don't know where they are. So we need him to tell us. Would you be okay if we remove the death penalty? Which they don't have to do that. They can do whatever they want. They can give him any sort of bargaining tools that he wants, or anything. They don't have to get the family permission.
No, it's nice that they did, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but they did, and their family was like, no, that we want to know where they are.
Yeah.
So in a detailed 10-page confession letter, Matthew tells police exactly what happened that night and where they could find Tina, Stephanie, and Cody.
Oh, God.
I have an excerpt of this confession letter that I will read at the very end, because obviously it is come from Matthew and it paints himself in a slightly different light. So I'll tell you what happened, and then I'll read the excerpt. But police finally have their answer as to what happened inside that house on Wednesday, the 10th of November.
Okay.
So the day before, on the 9th of November, Matthew Hoffman, as we said before, had been camped out across from Tina Herman's house because he wanted to find the perfect house to burgle, and he watched the family's routine, and then he slept in the woods that night. On the morning of the 10th of November, he watched as Sarah and Cody left for school, and then waited for Tina to eventually leave the house, which she did so around 10:30 a.m. So there were now no cars on the drive, and he was sure everyone was out the house, so he made his move. And unfortunately, Tina's garage was broken at the time and it didn't fully close. It kind of like dropped to one side. So one side was down, the other side was partially up, meaning that Matthew could roll underneath and then into the garage. He then kicked in the door leading into the house and gained entry. He wandered around for a while looking for anything of value to steal. But although Tina gave everything to her children that she could possibly do, she worked all the hours under the sun, they weren't a very well-off household. So there was nothing in there of value. After about an hour of being in the house, Matthew heard a car pull up into the drive and decided to hide in a bedroom. Tina's bedroom. So when Tina unknowingly wandered into her bedroom to find Matthew Hoffman just standing there, she didn't have any time to even process what was going on before Matthew jumped into action. He forced Tina face down onto her bed and hit her over the head a few times with a blackjack that he had brought with him. Now, a blackjack is like a billy club, like a police baton type.
Okay.
Not quite like a police baton, but that sort of like
that kind of thing.
Yeah. He had hoped that he would render her unconscious, but it didn't seem to be working. As Matthew was striking Tina in the head with this billy or blackjack, Stephanie Sprang walked into the room. She began yelling at Matthew, and there was chaos for a moment before Stephanie decided to run. So Matthew now had two women to deal with. On the nightstand beside Tina lay a large serrated hunting knife that he had just so happened to bring with him, and he stabbed Tina twice in the back. He then runs after Stephanie, who instead of running out of the house had run into another bedroom. He stabs her multiple times in the chest, making sure that she was dead before going back to where he had left Tina and then stabbing her multiple more times. He then decided that he would need to cover up his crime and get rid of the bodies. So he dragged Tina's body from the bedroom into the bathroom, where he set about dismembering her.
Oh, God.
He had no equipment with him that would be able to cut through bones, so he had to disarticulate them at the joints. He placed the body parts into garbage bags that he had found in the home. He then dragged Stephanie's body in the same way from the bedroom into the bathroom to do exactly the same. While this was happening, the family dog, Tanner.
Don't.
A miniature pincer was barking wildly, and Matthew was afraid that someone would hear it. So he killed the dog also.
I fucking hate him.
His plan was to load one of the cars into the drive. Either Tina or Stephanie's. I think it was Tina's car. He planned to load the car up with bodies and then to burn the house down to get rid of the evidence. He carried the bodies, the bags of body parts out of the house and began loading up the Jeep when he heard a noise coming from the front of the house. Sarah and Cody had just walked through the door after being dropped off home by the school bus. Upon entry into the house, they noticed the blood spattered everywhere. So they called out for their mum. And Matthew appeared completely out of nowhere, like stunning the children. Cody tried to run back out the front door while Sarah ran towards her bedroom. And Matthew reached Cody first. He tackled him and stabbed him in the back of the head and in the chest. God. He then ran after Sarah. She had made it into her blood-stained room, the room where Stephanie had been killed hours earlier. She fumbled with her bag, trying to get her mobile phone out to call for help when Matthew came in. He raised the knife to attack her as he had done with the other three. But then he stopped and he slowly lowered it down. He couldn't kill Sarah. So instead, he carried her kicking and screaming down into the basement. He blindfolded her and bound her hands and feet and then left her on the kitchen floor. He now had another body he needed to dismember. So with Sarah still in the house, Matthew dismembered her little brother.
Oh.
He now had 3 bags of bodies. He now had 3 bodies to bag up and he didn't have enough bags. So he loaded Sarah into the Jeep. he took her to his house and left her in the bathroom, which was clad with bags of leaves. And then he went to Walmart to buy the bags and tarp. I'm not 100% what order he does things now. But he goes back to the house, bags all the body parts, loads them into the Jeep, and then gets rid of the bodies. He then goes to get gas because his plan was to go back to the house and burn it down.
Right.
But his plan goes a little bit wrong because he takes Tina's car to go and get these jerry cans of gas. And once he'd got them, put them in the car, on his way back to the house, the car starts to kind of like cut out. So he abandons the car in the car park. And it was this point that he kind of, I think he walks back to his car and then, or goes back to his car and then needs his car to go back to where Tina's car was to pick up these gas cans. And it was then that police stopped him when he went back to this car park where Tina's car was parked to pick up these jerry cans. That's when police stopped him. Because the most baffling part about this is that when police done their drive-bys for Tina's welfare check, they saw Tina's car in the drive and the lights were on. Matthew was actually in that house dismembering the bodies.
Oh my God.
So he was unable to fulfill his plan of burning the house down. The police had stopped him and questioned him. He told him that his girlfriend was Sarah and that he was waiting for her to come out. They then let him go home, where he then went back to where he'd left Sarah. He moves her down into the basement where he makes this bed of leaves for her. He rapes her multiple times. He takes creepy pictures of her. He claims, after this had all happened, he claims to have taken care of her, like gotten a McDonald's, let her read a book and watch a film. But Sarah disputes that. She said that he did none of those things. He would come down into the basement and he would just stand and stare at me without saying a word. Other times he would come down, he would assault her. And so 4 days later, on November the 14th, police raid his house and then they rescue Sarah. In Matthew's confession letter, he claims that he never wanted to hurt anyone and he could never have hurt Sarah, that this was just a burglary gone wrong. And at the very end of his confession letter, he tells police what they have been desperate to find out all along: the locations of Tina, Stephanie, and Cody's bodies. He told detectives of a location near Fredericktown, a place called Cocosin Lake Wildlife Area. Once there, he pointed detectives to a 60-foot hollow tree. Detectives noticed that about 20 feet up, there was a large hole in the tree. And Matthew indicated that all 3 bodies had been placed inside. So detectives cut out a small portion of the bottom of the tree and they shone their torch inside. And sure enough, there were a stack of black bags piled up on top of each other.
Oh, God.
One of Matthew's stipulations for his confession was that no harm was to come to this tree. But police had to cut a massive chunk out of this tree to be able to remove the body bags. Like, this was a completely hollow tree. Did. So they removed like a panel out the front so that they could then go and remove these bags.
We're not about following your requests, Matthew.
Inside the bags, they found the dismembered body parts of Tina Herman, Stephanie Sprang, Cody Maynard, and Tanner, the family dog. On the 6th of January 2011, Matthew pled guilty to 10 counts, including aggravated murder, kidnapping, and rape. At the end of the sentencing, Matthew has his lawyer stand up and tell the court that this was just a burglary gone wrong. He had never intended to carry out this murder, kidnap, and rape. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Good.
And I'm just going to read this short excerpt from his confession letter before we end this episode, and I will answer any questions you've got.
Thank you.
So the confession letter starts: I parked my car in Howard and walked from there to the house. I got to the woods across the street from the house a little after midnight. I slept across the street from the house that night in a sleeping bag. I woke up at daylight. There were 2 vehicles parked at the house during the night, and I saw that the grey car had left. I went back to sleep until around 9 on Wednesday morning, which would have been the 10th. I stayed there until a woman left in a pickup truck. This meant there were no vehicles at the house. I walked across the street and tried to enter the front door, but it was locked. I then went in through the garage door. The garage door was not closed all the way, so I slid under it into the garage. I kicked the door into the house from the garage. By this time, it was approximately 10:30 a.m. Wednesday morning. I look around the house to make sure no one was there. Even if I did not take anything, there was a certain amount of excitement in being in someone else's home without them being there. I was looking for anything of value that could be carried out easily, i.e. money, jewellery, etc. I did not find anything of any real value. I was getting ready to leave as I had been there approximately an hour, but someone pulled up into the driveway. This was Tina. I was back in the bedroom when she entered the house and was unable to exit without breaking a window and trying to jump out. I had brought my knife for a certain amount of intimidation in case I ran into someone and needed to make an escape. When she made her way back into the bedroom, I confronted her and made her get onto the bed lying face down. I believed that we were in her bedroom. I had a blackjack. I was going to try to knock her out. I hit her a couple of times in the head, but this would not knock her out. I was not doing the job and I started panicking. The next thing I knew, her friend came into the bedroom. I have no idea when she got there, what she was doing there, and how she gained access. The other woman yelled at me. There were now two to deal with and I did not know what to do. I grabbed the knife that I had put down on the nightstand and stabbed the woman on the bed through her back twice. I chased the other woman down and stabbed her a couple of times in the chest. Instead of running out of the house, she had run into another bedroom. I believe this bedroom was for a girl due to the contents of the room. I then went back to the other bedroom where the first woman was located and stabbed her a couple more times. I could tell that both women were now dead. At this time, I was in a total state of shock. I wandered around the house slowly, coming to the realization of what I had done and how bad it was. During this time, I killed the dog because it would not stop barking. After a while, I came to the conclusion that I was going to dispose of the bodies and burn the house down. At first, I thought about loading the bodies into the vehicle, driving it into Foundation Park Pond. I would swim away as the vehicle sank. But I felt that it was too cold and I might not be able to make it out of the water. I decided to process the bodies and dispose of them inside a tree that I knew was hollow. I took the bodies into the bathroom and began processing the bodies to dispose of them. I used garbage bags from within the house and placed the bodies inside. Once I had finished processing the bodies, I moved the Jeep into the garage to load up the bodies. I still had a couple of bags to load into the Jeep when I heard the children come into the house. I confronted the children and the girl instantly ran to her bedroom. I stabbed the boy in the chest a couple of times. I ran into the bedroom after the girl to make sure she was not on the phone for help. I saw the girl was not on the phone and I could not bring myself to kill her. I did not enter the house to kill those people. I did not know a single one of them. I did not know their names. And I did not know who all lived at that house. I chose the house to break into because there was not any close neighbours and I noticed the garage door was ajar. I chose the house the day before. I did not plan for any of this to happen. I did not want to kill anyone and I tried to just knock the first woman out so that I would be able to escape. This was not working. A second woman showed up and things quickly spiralled out of control. They kept escalating and I was panicking. I only chose to process the bodies to make their disposal easier. So that's from his confession. So without his confession, police still would have been able to charge Matthew. However, they would literally never have found the bodies.
No.
And I just want to briefly tell you about the post-mortem of Tina, Cody and Stephanie.
Oh, goodness.
So Tina's body had been disarticulated at the neck joint, the shoulders, the hips and knees. It showed signs of blunt force trauma to her skull, and she had many, many knife wounds that would have been inflicted after death on her face, her chest, and she also had one large slice wound the length of her torso. So from like chest down to like the pubis area. It was like 14 inches long or something ridiculous like that. Stephanie's body was also disarticulated in the exact same way at the same joints, also with blunt force trauma to her head, and also with multiple stab wounds, a lot of which were inflicted post-mortem. Cody's body showed that he had 7 stab wounds all over his body, 1 to the back of the head, some in the chest, the abdomen, and some on his back, along with blunt force trauma to his head.
Well, he's post-mortem, do you know?
Pardon?
Well, he's post-mortem.
He doesn't actually say if he's. I don't think
No.
his were post mortem.
I kind of would hope that they were, to be honest. I hope.
They all died from the stab wounds. None of them died from the blunt force trauma. So now I want you to tell me, Kate, do you think that this was just a burglary gone wrong?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Why?
I don't think for 1 second, because why keep stabbing someone if it's and all of them as well?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need to do that. If it was like a panic of like, oh God, I just want to get out. He didn't putting her face down on the bed and then trying to knock her out and all that. I think that's bullshit. I don't believe that for a second. We know he's a rapist. So you don't go from a burglary that's gone wrong to then like abducting someone and raping them. I don't believe that he needed to kill anyone out of panic. I think he could have just shoved them into a bathroom, taken their phones, shoved them into a bathroom, blocked the door off or something, and then like done a runner. If you're going to do a burglary, rather than taking a great big hunting knife for intimidation, why not take like a mask or something so that you can't be recognized?
Yeah.
So I don't think you wouldn't intimidate someone into like being, like he said, he took it to intimidate someone so that he could get away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's no good, is it? Because they're going to recognize you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't believe that for a second.
The reason I found this case so perplexing was the pure escalation as well, because even if it was a burglary gone wrong, yes, he had gone there to burgle the house, so he says. He then, in that one instance, became a murderer, became a rapist, and became a paedophile.
Yes. Oh,
because
yes.
She was 13.
And so, an abduction, I don't know what it's called. Kidnapper.
Yeah. So he went from really small petty crimes like stealing signs and arson. That's not a petty crime, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
To becoming all of these things.
Yeah, like not actually hurting someone, and then to go to such
drastic measures, like dismembering the bodies. Yep.
Yeah, incredibly violent. So multiple people.
Me and Josie watched a program the other day, and it begged a question that just keeps coming up to me, and I wanted to ask your opinion, and I know yours will be different to mine, and it will be the same as Josie's. Okay. So we watched a program, and it was very good because it kind of got you thinking. So it was this priest, and by one of his followers had given him a memory card, like a USB memory card, and said, please, can you look after this? Yeah, I'm in a bit of trouble. I need you to look after this. The priest said, yes, absolutely. I'll look after that for you. He then got home and he emptied his pockets out and he put this USB stick down at the same time as his teenage son had his math tutor over. And his math tutor is a woman and says, I just need to download some bits and that. And he goes, oh, look, there's a USB stick there. So she puts the USB stick in. Nobody knows what's on this USB stick, okay? But David Tennant, who is the priest, knew that something on there wasn't right. So then they come up with this thing that there's porn on there. And the son takes the blame. The son says, it's my porn. I'll take, it was me. That's my USB stick full of porn. Meanwhile, the maths tutor is looking at this images on the screen, and she's like, David Tennant, the priest, I need to talk to you. The son goes out. It turns out there's child pornography on this USB stick. And she's like, I need to tell someone that your son is potentially a paedophile. And David Tennant is like, no, it's not his, and he's trying his best to diffuse the situation.
Mm.
However, the situation escalates because he doesn't want her leaving the house because she's going to tell someone, and he's trying to protect his son. And it escalates to the point where he ends up locking her down into the basement and keeping her there. But then where do you go from there? Because if you let her out, she's going to tell people that you've locked her up.
Yeah.
It ends up escalating to the point where they plan to kill her. Okay. So
Goodness.
this is the question. And he was a priest. He was a normal police, never committed a crime. It was a normal, like, priest, normal guy.
Well, I
never
don't trust priests anyway. So.
To the point of, he's now held her without her consent.
Yeah.
And he's planning to murder her.
Mm-hmm.
How do everyday average people get themselves into a situation that they would then potentially commit murder? Because at the very end of this episode, it says that everybody is able to commit murder in the right situation. Absolutely. I think it says something like, on a bad day, given the right circumstances, everybody could commit murder.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. I just don't believe it. Because
if someone broke into my house and stabbed
not in self-defense,
stabbed my dog, or not even broke into my house, if someone killed my dog, I would pick up the first sharp thing and I would stab them until they stopped moving.
But let's take out that sort of element from it, because if your life was in danger, that's fair enough. If a child's life is in danger, that's fair enough. In a situation like this, or like in Matthew's case where he goes to burgle and is interrupted, his immediate escalation is to commit murder.
Yeah, okay.
Would that be in that state of panic where you're like, oh my God, what do? I don't want to get in trouble. So how do I eliminate that threat? It literally jumps to murder. And that baffles me.
Yeah, no, it does for me as well, because it's a bad decision. And ultimately it is a decision, whether it's made in panic or fear, it's still a decision. It's still something that you think, I'm going to pick up this knife and I'm going to stab someone because I'm in a panic that they're going to say something or they're going to tell someone. But my feelings on that is I would rather get in trouble with the law for burglary or, even like punching someone or, something like that than murder. And
that's what I don't understand.
You're always going to be guilty of murder, whether you're caught by the police or whether you're living in fear for the rest of your life, constantly looking over your shoulder. You're always going to be guilty of murder.
But absolutely, there's a new 24 Hours in Police Custody that is very similar.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait to see it.
I can't. Oh no, I was going to talk to you about it.
No, don't say it.
Oh no. But once you've watched it, you'll understand the question. But it's based on how normal, everyday people can go to this sort of lengths, and that's terrifying. Like, he had never dismembered a body before, never stabbed anyone, never killed anyone, to then going to overkill 3 people, dismember their bodies.
Yeah. No, we've said it on the pod before. I find it perplexing that you can be a normal person and have, like, normal person with
work bodies,
life, going to work, taking the kids to school, blah blah blah. But then that moment, that split second moment where you take someone's life for whatever reason, in your mind, I guess, you are then a murderer, whether or not
forever.
Yeah, no matter, but you're not then just like a normal person. You are a murderer. Yeah, whether it's self-defense, whether it's something that you've always wanted to do in some people's case, but you are then a murderer. And I find that crazy to think about, because you're just like everyone does it for the first, or all murderers do it for the first time at some point. What is going on in that person's body and brain that suddenly
doesn't stop them?
That suddenly makes them do that, take it a step further, and like just suddenly take someone's life. It's terrifying, because you don't know what people you meet. You don't know when they're at that precipice where they could suddenly go over and go, do you know what, something snapped, I've had enough, I'm gonna kill the next person I see. And then you're like, morning. You know, it is terrifying.
I know. And Josie said as well, like in the case of this David Tennant program, and I just kept saying, I just don't think that would happen though, because it escalated. Like I said, like he was like, oh, I can't let you leave this house because you've got to go and tell someone. So then he's like, well, if I'm not going to let her leave a house, how do I contain her? He put her down in the basement. Now what do? She's down in the basement. I can't let her out now because she's going to tell everyone I've locked her up in the basement. So that escalation, for me personally, I don't see how people can get themselves in a situation like that without rationally going, if I let them out now, it's going to be better than if I killed them.
Exactly.
I don't understand that. I just don't understand it. But Josie said she understands it 100%, that things like that can escalate, and then would escalate into like murder. She was like, what would you do? What would you do then? And I said, like, rationally thinking, if she'd have gone and taken that USB stick of child porn and taken it to the police, he was worried that the son would be labelled a pedophile. But I said, if police investigated that, they wouldn't have found any evidence on his computer or anywhere else. So it literally wouldn't have gone anywhere. So I don't understand, like, the whole escalation of it.
There is, but then
I think you don't think rationally in those situations, do you?
No, and also there's many, many, many people, sadly, that have been let down by the system and let down by the legal system in particular. So I think there would be that part of you that would go, you know, you might be saying, no, do you know what? Let's fight this out. I'll tell the truth, and, you know, the truth will out. And I'll be okay because I didn't actually do this, and I believe in the justice system, so that's fine. But there'd also be a part of you that said, yeah, but what about, do you remember Bob? He was innocent, and he still did 5 years in prison. Do you know what I mean? And, you know, we're all aware of, like, Stephen Avery, whether you believe him or whether you don't. He did 18 years in prison and then was released with a pardon. And said, you know, sorry, we think we got it wrong. So sorry about that. We think you are innocent. And then he got released out of prison. So there's all those things are going to go through your mind. Yeah,
but then where is that part that goes, oh shit, I could tell the truth, and but what if they then don't believe me? What if I go to prison for being a paedophile? Where is that part that goes, but you can't murder someone though? Like, going to prison for being a paedophile is better than murdering someone. Where is that voice?
Yeah, I don't think there would be maybe enough time for you to have that, I don't know what to do, don't know, like that. And then if someone sort of flew at you or something and was like, oh, get out of my house or something, and you had a knife, you might be like, ooh, ooh. And then
I think that comes into fight or flight, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're either, you know, one or the other fight, and that's when you'd be like.
But in his case, I don't think, I just think you've taken a flipping hunting knife.
Yeah.
Into the house.
I 100% believe that he went in there to take Sarah, because you don't go into burglar house, get caught, and then go, oh, well, I might as well take the little girl and then take her back to mine and rape her.
Yeah, exactly. So, exactly. I
think
agree.
He was after her.
He admits that he sat and watched the house.
Yeah.
So I think
he said that he
saw
wanted
her
to watch
and
it. Yeah, that's what I think as well. And I think that I don't think he was looking to burgle anything.
No, I don't.
He
I
literally
don't.
took nothing from their house.
Yeah. No, I think if his intention was to burgle the house and he thought there was a possibility that someone might come in and like disturb him or anything like that, I think there's other things that he could have taken rather than a flipping great big Bowie knife or whatever it was. I think I think he intended to take Sarah and he was willing to take anyone else down that stood in his way.
I agree.
And I also think he's a twat.
Oh no.
Mm.
But that is the episode, so
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed hearing about it because of my morbid curiosity, but I'm sad for the people that died, and I'm sad for Sarah that she was abused and attacked like that by some scumbag, and I'm really sad that he killed the dog.
Yeah, I know.
It sucks.
Apologies.
That's all right. It's not your fault.
All right then.
Thank you very much.
Thank
you very much for our Blamley joining us.
Yes. All right. Well, yeah, that's a nice special Blam episode.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have to go nap.
Pass that on.
I caught that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we will catch you
on the next
one.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.